Good morning. It's the Call Flow Radio Show, and you're on the air.
Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you. Hope you're having a beautiful day. Going to turn out to be pretty nice, even though we've got yucky weather coming tomorrow. That's all right. Enjoy today for today and worry about tomorrow when it becomes today. As I have mentioned earlier, we do have a special guest with us on the first part of the program. Very happy to have with me Dr. Maria Amann, who is the director of the Piedmont Health District here. Dr. Amann, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad to have you with us. I hope you are doing well this morning.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about you, because a lot of people, for the first time they're meeting you. You've been here for a good while now, 6-7 years, right?
I moved here to Farmville in 2014 and started with Centra as a psychiatrist in 2015. I'd been practicing up until I took this job in October of 2021.
So you've been at the Piedmont then for a while. And come from a medical family, from my understanding.
I do. My father is a psychiatrist and a family practitioner. Grew up in rural West Virginia. My mother was a pediatrician. She grew up in the Philippines, and my grandfather was also a general practitioner. He did house calls down the hollers of West Virginia. So a rich history.
Yeah, those are the days. House calls of the doctor.
They were great. He saw everything. Knew exactly what the patient needed because he saw them living in their home environment.
Yeah, it probably gave him a lot of insight into what the medical issues could have been when you see the living environment.
Absolutely.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
And you studied several universities. I know you went to Harvard for a period.
Yeah, so I did my undergraduate at Wellesley College
up
in Massachusetts, outside of Boston.
Yeah.
And then I went to Harvard Medical School. Lucky enough to be there. Excellent education. It was really wonderful, great times. And then I got my master's in public health at UNC while I was doing my residency at Duke in psychiatry.
Wow, all fantastic schools. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you for taking the time to come out. The thing that mainly struck initially with me was, of course, COVID is not gone. Those kind of diseases don't just disappear. So kind of want to talk about, perhaps for people, where we're at now with that. Very rarely do you see anybody wearing masks anymore. So what really is the state here, particularly for us in Southside Virginia, where things stand?
Absolutely. Well, let me back up just a little bit. So Piedmont Health District, a lot of people may not know what that encompasses or what that is. So we're part of the Virginia Department of Health and monitor disease, right? We take care of a lot of different things, and we can talk about all the different things that we do a little bit later.
Yeah.
But I cover Cumberland, Buckingham, Prince Edward, Charlotte, Lunenburg, Nottoway, and Amelia. So 7 counties.
Yeah, and pretty large counties, too.
And so that is the area about which I primarily am invested and know. It was the same area that I served as a psychiatrist. So really familiar with the people and many of the challenges in our area. Longstanding desire to be a rural health practitioner and think about underserved areas. So coming to this with that perspective. I really wanted to jump into the fray of COVID because I could see that as a psychiatrist, I knew a lot about our behaviors, who we were as a community, and that really is one of the primary drivers of any communicable disease, of which obviously COVID was an emerging one, really dangerous when it first started. It's March 2020 now, so we're 3 years into this, and I would say it is not over. We'll probably know it's over in retrospect because we will have seen that we've gone through a couple of waves and things have really settled into a good pattern. That is not the case right now. I'm heartened. We've had a couple of waves. We're just coming through one right now. We had one in the summer and one now, and we we managed those, I would say, as our medical system survived. Our healthcare facilities were stressed, but definitely not broken, and certainly not like we were early on in the pandemic. The big wild card is obviously China, where they are having an explosion of diseases since they stopped their zero COVID policies and sort of opened up business as usual. It's a country of 1.4 billion people. They say, and it's a little bit hard to tell, that 80% have now been infected with COVID-19 in that country. That's 1.1 billion people with active infections in the last month or so.
It's understandable why so many countries are putting restrictions on people coming in from China.
Absolutely. And, with that many people being infected, we don't know what variants are going to be coming out down the pipeline, new strains. So that is how those new variants emerge. Once somebody gets infected, that virus likes to find its way through the puzzle of our immune system and figure out, the way through. It's escape room process. Right?
And viruses in general, that is their nomenclature, that they will find the it's like water. They will find the workaround.
They love to mutate.
New strains all the time.
Love to mutate all the time. Colds, they're just masters at it, masters of deviation. But our immune systems are also amazing. And we have multiple lines of defense, and one of the things that we've been really highly focused on in this society is sort of one of the first lines of defense, our antibody defense. So you hear a lot about our antibodies with vaccines. Those increase our antibodies. We had treatments that were monoclonal antibodies, but they are actually just our first line of defense. So when we hear about the vaccine evading antibodies, they're actually tiers behind that that really help us. They're levels, exactly. Okay. And so even though a lot of these strains are evasive, that's what they'll call them, they escape through the antibody gauntlet, our T cells are always there, and they're actually a little bit understudied compared to antibodies, is what I would say. The immune system's enormously complex, and even our most professional, highly esteemed researchers in immunology don't know everything about our immune
We're
system.
Always still learning about it.
It's like the brain, Very, very complicated. But the T cells, they eliminate cells once they've been infected, and we know that because of the pattern of disease right now, that our T cells are effective. They're still working from the time that you might have seen infection or gotten vaccinated. Those T cells were activated to know COVID, and they still continue to be very, very effective. And that is why we've gotten the hospitalization rates down, why we've gotten the death rates down to a kind of baseline. It is still very, very high, and this is why we're concerned. Last year, COVID was the third leading cause of death in the U.S. Hopefully that will not be the case this year, but it's early to tell, right? And still we're seeing anywhere between 400 to 500 deaths a day. That is the equivalent of stroke, people dying from stroke in our country. It is significant, and we can do better. We've had an enormous amount of resources dumped into this disease, and I think we should be able, with all the treatments that we have, with the vaccines that we have, with the ways that we've learned how to manage this, even in the ICU, to have much less than 500 deaths a day. Right, and that's 500 is at its peak. So right now we're I think around 550 deaths a day in the U.S. We've had 10 deaths in our district in the last 13 weeks. So again, it is still really with us. People should not. Very few people should be dying from this disease. Again, we have treatment. Paxlovid, we have remdesivir. We have really good treatments in the ICU. People should be able to get treatment right away, and we really should not be dying from this disease at the rate that we are doing right now.
Where numbers are still higher than they most certainly should be. Let's talk a little about safety, since the numbers are still at that level, and it is. Well, I guess like colds and flu, a coronavirus. It is the type of virus they are, and knowing these viruses, strains, and whatnot. Should people who have certain pre-existing conditions of certain age, is it better for them? Should they still consider masks if they go into crowded public places? I mean, are these common sense things? This should still be your daily norm if you're of a certain type.
Absolutely. So COVID has really brought to light something that has always been true, which is that we have very vulnerable people in our population. Oh. They're immunocompromised. Parents of children who are immunocompromised know this very, very well. The elderly. So if you're above 80, your immune system is functioning, but it is a little sluggish, is what I would say.
Sure, natural aging.
Natural aging, and you're at real risk for things. Add on to that any kind of chronic illnesses or other pieces. People who are undergoing cancer treatments, anyone who's had a transplant with an organ. These are all people who have always been at risk for any disease, much less an emerging respiratory pathogen that really spreads quite easily through the air. That group will always need to be extra careful, have always needed to be extra careful. And in some ways, I think there's been a benefit in that masking has become a little bit more normalized, and that they will probably feel an easier social gauntlet to put on a mask in places where they probably should have been wearing masks before. I think we've improved by leaps and bounds our surveillance in long-term care facilities, nursing homes, assisted living facilities. We have always looked at respiratory outbreaks. Even a cold can be deadly to somebody in those environments.
Sure.
If it spreads or a certain strain, we've seen it long before COVID.
Oh yeah.
And so now we have stepped up our surveillance. Healthcare facilities are monitoring this very, very carefully now in a way that we did before, but have learned to be even better, which will save lives.
Right, and it'll only continue to get better. Now, in connection to COVID, we have heard about, particularly over this winter, new strains and how, I'll say, quote unquote, severe colds and flus have been, particularly for this winter. Is that something that people need to be more careful of? Are those numbers and those strains up because there's this new, coronavirus out there? Because I know they are all corona in their makeup.
So great question. The triple-demic, right? That people have been throwing around. So I actually think the triple-demic's a little bit of a false lead there.
Okay.
We do know that these diseases compete against each other in ways that we haven't quite unraveled yet. So, for instance, last year, aside from mask usage and people being a little bit more careful, we were really in our environment, out and back in school. We were doing things together in community, and we still had very, very low levels of flu. So there was something else that was going on with the way in our environment. We just don't know how these viruses sort of create their own hierarchy.
Okay.
But what we do know, and we always know this a little bit ahead of time because we can follow the Southern Hemisphere, is that the flu season came early and went down early. That was true in the Southern Hemisphere before it came here in our summer. They go through their winter. And we are seeing the same pattern now. So that is the good news. Okay. Flu hit us early. It did hit us early. It hit us earlier than usual, but the peak has not been higher than a normal flu season. And already it's coming down to where we would normally see levels in April. So in a normal year, we see it from January to April. This year, it's really going to be October through January.
Okay.
And I'm hopeful that pattern will continue. Now, you don't viruses are unpredictable.
Right. Yeah.
And so we just never know if we'll see another spike. The flu season could be longer. We saw unusual levels of flu in the summer last year that we've never seen. But hospitals are prepared for this. Again, this is what they do every year. They prepare for flu. It's a strain on our system all January. We buckle down. We know this is going to happen. People are going to go into ICU, and we get through it. We're layering on that now another disease, COVID, where people are getting hospitalized, still unpredictable spikes. Like we kind of know when people gather together, we'll see a big spike. We had the spike in July when people started going on their summer vacations and traveling. We saw the spike again during the holidays after Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so we're starting to see a pattern, but it's not solid yet. But even if we have two or three spikes a year, that's another strain on our system. Throw in there RSV, right? We always get RSV. It was a little bit more severe this year, I would say. It's not an issue currently, although we're continuing to watch it. Now,
I can hear somebody out there saying, "What's she talking about, RSV?" So please.
So it's a respiratory syncytial virus. It is most common in kids, and it is really severe and something that we get concerned about in infants because their airways can't quite fight against this kind of virus. So infants are the ones that are most at risk for being hospitalized. So. Pediatric beds are they're rare. Yeah. We don't have a lot of them. Our healthcare system isn't set up to make those beds, I actually would argue, a little bit economically something that you keep large numbers of.
Okay.
Right. And so when we had these spikes of diseases together, our pediatric hospitals were flooded. So rather than a triple-demic of the threats of all of these together, the real threat is our healthcare system that has been really damaged by COVID.
Right.
We saw a large efflux of healthcare workers out of the system. There are many doctors that have been longstanding that are heading into retirement. Nurses are finding other jobs. There's been a large travel industry of nurses that have come in to sort of supplement, but how long can that continue? And what does it mean not to have a kind of flexible workforce that doesn't know the community? What are all of these pieces that make it just a little bit more difficult on our healthcare system? And every time there is a spike, that is absolutely what I worry about. I look to the hospitalizations. I look to see. I call, Tom Angelo or Claudia Meinhardt over at Centra. Say, how are you doing?
Yeah.
We check in with each other to just make sure that they are protected. And any time that we're thinking about decisions we're making for the public or recommendations, it is to protect our healthcare system and make sure that those who are sick can still access care, because it is fragile. I will say that out there. It is fragile, and I think what is going to be most important in the years to come will be shoring that up and taking a real look in the mirror as a country and saying, what do we need to do to improve our healthcare system?
Yeah, it certainly is in flux right now, and like you said, I think when COVID really hit at first, of course, there's a whole new strain, so no one's prepared. No one really knows what's happening. And the pressures that were put on hospitals and medical centers, we really started to see these flaws. What maybe were little cracks all of a sudden became chasms.
Exactly.
And so people have called for revamping, correction in what is the American healthcare system for years. But I think this has really shown a light to people who probably thought, oh, it's fine, it's fine. No, it's not fine. There are major problems on both ends for those in the system and for those who need the system.
Yep, absolutely. And it's not just the hospitals. In our community, I would argue access to primary care. We've lost just to normal attrition of retirements and other pieces. Some of our family doctors, I know many in our community lament that. Lament that they get a new doctor every 6 months, and it is just a different feeling for all of us. And I know doctors don't like it either. So we're just trying to find our rhythms now. And, public health is part of that, in that we want to protect you even before you get to the doctor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We want to keep you well and healthy in your community, and do everything that we can to do that.
Now, does the Piedmont Health, I assume there's a website and access portal and stuff for people where there's information and things like this. That's a great first line of defense for folks out there, everyday things to keep in mind, ways to help keep yourself healthy.
Yeah, vdh.virginia.gov. Look it up. Lots of information on not only communicable diseases, but rabies, lead in your house, how to set up your septic system and wells and get those permits going.
Right.
WIC, we do a bit of everything.
Wow. So a great resource, and that really, going to sound kind of cliche, knowledge is your first line of defense here.
Absolutely.
No matter what it is.
Eastern district that created the tagline "From Babies to Rabies." And it's really
I like that. That's good.
It's really what we do.
That is good. So, I mean, I know those are the things that are in the forefront of people's minds right now: colds and flus because of winter, and corona because it's just still around. And correct me if I'm wrong, but because COVID being a coronavirus like it is, now that it's there, it's never gone away. It's going to be like flu.
Yep.
There will be cycles, and you have to learn to protect yourself and just deal.
Yes. At this point in time, this disease is here to stay. Early on, we wondered whether we could potentially eliminate it.
Right.
Whether it would kind of disappear or fade into the relative background. But as we came to know more about it, and as it spread, and as we saw that it actually spreads into other animals as well, once you open that can of worms, it really is. It's embedded in our society. It's going to be here. It's something that we have to learn to live with, and it's going to be one more thing that the public health department has to put up on our webpage.
More strain on an already strained health system. So, having talked of that, we've still got a good another 6 weeks at least of winter type weather before things start to warm up. What are some things health-wise that people should maybe start preparing for and thinking about now so that, they can avoid some kind of illness that is prepared?
Sure. So all of these diseases, it's some of the just basic things, right? So wash your hands.
Oh, yeah.
Right? All the time. If you are in a public school system or out in the public, wash those frequently touched areas. Handles, tables, doorknobs. We can't do that enough. Just wipe them down with a little bit of a disinfectant. Try to learn the behavior of not touching your eyes, right? Glasses are good for that, but we don't all wear glasses, and it's hard, particularly for kids. But if we can stop touching our noses and eyes, that really helps. And stay home when you're sick. Again, this is kind of it's easy to say, it's harder to do.
Yeah.
We don't quite have the policies in place for every single worker to make that a very easy choice for them. Right. And if I had my druthers, I would have policy in place that makes this a very, very easy choice for somebody to say, I'm not feeling well, I've got these cold symptoms, I'm going to stay home, because that's how it spreads.
Right, and you don't know at that point. Do you just have a cold? Do you have a strain of COVID?
Yeah. Or who are you going to run into that's going to be really vulnerable to the thing that just hit me and makes me have the sniffles, but could literally kill them.
Yeah.
And, if we as a society stayed home one day more when we weren't feeling well rather than push through it, we'd really see a decreased disease burden.
The spread would certainly be cut.
Absolutely. And then vaccinations of all varieties. What we have seen, one of the fallouts from COVID has been a decrease in our childhood immunization rates across the board.
I don't understand that. I just don't understand that mindset.
Yeah,
That's me.
It's confusing. So the schools report all of their numbers every fall. It's on our website. You can look at the maps and see where your county lies or where your school lies with their immunization rates. But you will see they are down. Virginia normally is a well-vaccinated community. In the high 90% of kindergartners entering school get all of their vaccines, and we've really dipped down into the high 80s. So
wow.
it's significant, and is a really big undertaking for all of our pediatricians, for all of our public health offices. If you don't have a pediatrician, you can come to your local health department and get vaccinated. We do that. We do that for travel vaccines. We do all the vaccines.
Oh,
you can
that's
come in
fantastic.
and get your shot.
So there's another resource, which is great. Take some of that strain, from the hospital and those things like that. Is there? I'm just trying to think. Those were the main points I wanted to make sure that we helped inform the public on. Are there other things perhaps coming up that you know of that you think we should make sure people know?
Yeah. So the unspoken scourge that is silently rising in the background are actually sexually transmitted infections.
Really?
These have been climbing probably for at least the last decade, and are really skyrocketing. It is frightening. We had basically eliminated syphilis, and every year it is climbing up to the point that we now have cases of congenital syphilis, which means that babies are being born with syphilis,
wow.
which is very, very dangerous to the infant. They have developmental delay and other real challenges, and it is a preventable disease. We can treat syphilis. There should be no child that is born infected with syphilis, and we are now seeing that in Virginia. I think I wrote down, so in 2012, we had 1 case of congenital syphilis. Mm-hmm. In 2021, we had 17. Now, these are low numbers, but that is a huge
but 1
increase.
to 17, that's,
exactly. Huge increase. These are babies, and it is preventable, entirely preventable.
Are you seeing a root cause? Is this that people just, when they're contracting some kind of sexual disease, are not going to get it medically treated? Or is this, I don't know, a sudden decrease in the use of protection?
I think we just took our eyes off the ball. People forgot about it because we had done such a good job getting those numbers down. And all of those steps together, we stopped checking. People stopped having that in mind, that was a real issue.
Yeah.
It's possible that protection decreased, but really it's been the all the different factors and
right.
Nobody talking about it.
Yeah. I had not even heard. I had no idea.
It is easier now, in some senses, to self-test. It's a little bit expensive and costly on that front, but if you can't get to a doctor, there's telehealth available for self-testing for all of the sexually transmitted infections. But you can also go to your local health department, and we have a nurse practitioner that will test you. It's free or on sliding scale. No one should pay more than they can afford.
Sure.
And that is available to anyone who walks in our doors. So.
Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. So I would think most people like myself would be very surprised to hear that. I guess maybe it is, like you said, kind of comes down to out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
Absolutely.
You figure, never hear about it, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. Well, just like we were talking about with COVID, it doesn't go away. These things are here.
It doesn't go away, and when we forget about it, things slip through the crack, and these diseases are wily. So,
wow.
I'm trying to think of other things. January is Radon Action Month. So we monitor radon. Radon, for those who do not know, is an odorless, colorless, radioactive gas that comes out of the ground, naturally occurring.
Yep.
And we don't really worry too much about it because it goes into the air and it doesn't affect us to a large degree. But in our homes, it can collect, particularly when our windows are shut in the winters and we're sitting around. So there are maps the EPA puts out for higher radon areas, so areas where that, again, naturally occurs in the earth to a higher degree. But actually, every person should really check their homes. And you can get these kits from the Virginia Department of Health. Yep. Again, you just have to pay the cost of shipping, $3. And we offer those every year, usually from September to May. You can go on our site and order them, and they'll tell you where to put them. They should be in your livable area, so like on a table in your bedroom. While you're away at work, you just let the test sit there, and then you mail it back to the Department of Health, and we'll tell you whether you have enough radon in your home to be concerned. Yeah. The hard part is you then have to, if it's a high level, you do have to figure out how to, what we call mitigate, right. Get rid of that radon, and there is a cost to that. So we're working on that, trying to help people figure out how to afford that. It can be $1,200 on average to put in a radon mitigation system, but it's a pretty easy fix. A fan that kind of goes in the earth and a little exhaust pipe that goes up to your
It just draws that air from your crawl right space or basement.
But the reason that it's concerning is that it's the second leading cause of lung cancer behind smoking, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and you'll hear that a lot. I know many people never smoked a day in my life, and I still got yes, that's a cause, but it's not the only cause of, and just like many other diseases, it's not just one thing that can cause this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always you have to stay vigilant. There's always a fight.
Absolutely. And I will say this, one of the surprising things that I sort of recognized when I stepped in this position very quickly, rabies is really out there. Do not think that it is just something that is rare and unusual. It is rare in the number scheme of things, but we get a fair number of cases where we will end up inoculating somebody, giving them their vaccine, because there's a question of it, an encounter with a wild animal. Yep. And every once in a while, particularly in our county, we're pretty good. People will bring us the bodies of animals that have been behaving unusually or attacked them, and we can test them, and we will see rabies in this community. So get your pets vaccinated, stay up to date on them. It saves your pets. And if you are bitten by a wild animal, please go to the emergency room and get it taken care of. We will follow up with you, again, the Department of Health, and give you the rest of your vaccines. Yeah, I had a friend just this last summer who one of the dogs got involved with and had to go through the treatment and for rabies. It was exactly that. And I can remember many times we would have reports and stories right in the air, a fox or a raccoon or whatever, we had rabies. Foxes, bobcats. Somebody had a horse one time. Wow, that's surprising. You don't usually hear that. Don't usually hear about horses with rabies. Right. We've had questions about skunks and wells, so all sorts of unusual things. Yeah, well, especially as much of rural community. Yes. It's certainly prevalent. Absolutely. So most definitely have to. We'll take a moment while I have Dr. Amann here before I let her go. If you do have a health question about any of the things that we have talked about or something that perhaps she can answer, if you want to give us a call, 434-394-0924. Give you a minute or two in case anyone does have a question. Otherwise, of course, would recommend to reach out to the Piedmont Health District through the Department of Health. And, of course, you can always find out your information that way as well. But just in case, figure while she's here, she's happy enough to do that. And if someone did have a question, wanted to make sure that we could get your answer. Hopefully, we've answered most of the questions that people would already have, particularly as far as here being the winter COVID and cold and flu. That was something that bothered me. And I'm just curious, being a health professional, whenever I would hear the news and instead of saying COVID, they just say the coronavirus. And I'm saying that's not accurate, because colds and flus are also coronaviruses, and it would drive me crazy. Does that bother you? I don't know why that bothered me so badly. Yeah, it's funny. So coronavirus, we used to always learn, it's the common cold.
Right.
Influenza is slightly different kind of virus. But yeah, obviously, being specific in language is an important piece. It is important. We need to be on point because it can ruin the good name of other viruses.
Yeah, I think it just confuses people. All right, let's see if we have a question for you. Morning, you're on the air.
Good morning. I have actually two questions.
Okay.
The first question is...
Hold on one sec. Yeah, put those on, Dr. Bauman. Okay, go ahead.
Well, the first question is, you were talking about the syphilis, and have you noticed there has been an increase in, I guess, some of the older viruses that we thought were stamped out? And do you think the increase of these viruses were based on the, I guess, the influx of illegals? Is anything like that related?
So just increased migration has always been something in the world that spreads disease, right?
Yeah.
We know that. I don't, in the case of our sexually transmitted diseases and other pieces, it's not really migration that is the issue. It really is lack of detection, and that's really been the case with the STIs.
Okay.
Well, there have been, and I don't know right off the top of my head, I guess other, I don't know if we'd call them diseases or viruses that have popped up throughout the country.
Sure. So a good example would be, very nearby in Nottoway County, we housed many thousands of Afghan guests right here in our district, and the Department of Health was very involved at that point in time in monitoring and surveillance to do exactly this, which is to make sure that unusual diseases that we don't see a lot of, say tuberculosis, did not come into our country and spread in a way that we were not prepared for. But what I will say is that particularly with our immigrants, there are a lot of processes that go on that protect us. They monitor while they are overseas. They monitor when they come through any of the airports. So in this case, Dulles, there was a holding ground in the D.C. area to make sure people had been tested or received appropriate vaccinations, even before they came down to Nottoway County. So there is a process, and we provide multiple layers of protection exactly for this case, because we want to protect the population at large. And the same thing happens at the border.
Right.
I bet, yes.
But great question.
This next question is kind of political, and every time I speak to a small business owner in town, it kind of, when we talk about the virus and stuff, this kind of pops up. And it seems as though when this was all going down, a lot of the small businesses were forced to close, but some of the major big chain businesses were allowed to stay open. Was there a reason for that?
I was not intimately involved with the health department at that point in time when the bulk of the closures were going on. There were real labor laws in place that were there to protect workers, and so every work environment was required to report their tests, and so we were tracking this very, very closely when it first came. Every single case, every single place, and just by its nature in percentages or other places, it's possible that smaller businesses either chose to close or lost workers because they were sick and needed to care for their loved ones, and so it's a little bit hard to say with the discrepancies. I can't talk to that. In depth.
I didn't know if it was just I didn't know if it was just a chat or a memo or something. It was like, close down the little guy, leave the big guys open.
I don't think that was an actively made decision by people. I think it was probably a series of multiple factors that just happened to make it fall that way.
Well, yeah, because I haven't ran into a small business owner that says, I was happy to shut down. I was happy to lose.
I'm sure they weren't. I'm sure. I'm sure nobody was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huh. All righty.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you for your answers. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, a little bit of different insight there. Well, Dr. Harmon, I want to thank you again for taking the time to come out. I think we've given people a lot of great information and a few things to keep in mind here and think about. I would say anytime anything comes up that you think we need to make sure the public gets out there know, just let us know. Would love to have you back again. And would love to try and just book a time when we could have you back in to talk about your field kind of previous, we'll say, about psychology, because it's just a fascinating field.
Absolutely. I would love to talk about that. I have a lot of things to share and thoughts that I've gathered over the many years serving this community. So would love to do that. I just wanted to make sure I put out our number in case anyone had questions.
Okay.
So Piedmont Health District, you can call us 434-392-3984, extension 137. That's our general inquiry line. Leave a message. Again, 434-392-3984. Or you can find us online, bdh.virginia.gov.
There we go. Nice and simple. And a lot of great resource information there, as well as answering for your questions. Wonderful. Thank you again so much. Have a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
All right, got to get through here. Let's get to all the rest of our goodies. Quick look at your forecast. Sunny, highs near 55, west winds 6 to 8 miles an hour. Increasingly cloudy tonight, lows right around the freezing point of 32. Tomorrow, 90% chance of rain, maybe even some freezing rain mixed in there. That all happening before 9 in the morning. Then it'll just be rain. Looking for highs in the low 40s, east winds 5 to 8 miles an hour. Wednesday night, 60% chance of rain till the early morning hours. Cloudy skies with lows in the upper 30s. Westerly winds 6 to 13, gusts as high as 21. And then for Thursday, mostly sunny. Highs right around 50 degrees with west winds 11 to 18 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 30 possible. Right now, humidity is at 83%, barometer 30.25 inches. Got some southwest winds, just a little 3 miles an hour. Otherwise, blue skies and sunshine, and we're now looking at 29 degrees currently here outside of the WFLO studios. All right. Yeah, birthday and anniversary time for you here on The Flow. I look at my list here, and we have several names, but looks like another day of all birthdays for you today. So let us start off. Asher Shepard. Asher celebrating a birthday today. Jesse Lee over in Cumberland. Jesse's got a birthday as well. A couple folks that we know of from the Crew Burkeville area. Anna Noel Shackleton and Amy Cook, both from Crew Burkeville area, celebrating birthdays today. And that is the list of birthdays on our list, anyway, that we know about. I'm sure there are folks out there celebrating whom we don't know. We wish you the best as well. Remember, if you want to get those names on the birthday anniversary calendar, simply email them to birthdays@wflo.net, or, of course, mail them to WFLO. That's 217 West 3rd Street, Suite 2. Here in Farmville, Virginia. Little business, and I'll be back.
Hello, I'm Stuart Wilborn, manager of the Bank of Charlotte County Loan Office in downtown Farmville. With over 30 years of banking experience, I'm here to help you finance your commercial, agricultural, or personal project. Give us a call at 391-1136 or stop by our downtown office at 216 North Main Street, where you'll find old-school personal assistance with attention to detail. The Bank of Charlotte County, giving you more for your banking needs. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
Well, an informational-packed show's actually much more than I thought it was going to be. As we have just about 7 minutes to go on the program, you can give us a call. We'll squeeze you in if you want. Let's look at our day in history quickly here. 1848 we'll start. James Marshall discovered a gold nugget at Sutter's Mill. Of course, that would lead to the gold rush of 1849. Jump to 1943, President Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill would conclude a conference in Morocco, specifically Casablanca. 1945, war correspondent Joseph Morton among a group of captives executed by Germans at a concentration camp in Austria. In 1965, statesman Winston Churchill would die at his London home. He was 90 years old. 1978, the Soviet satellite Cosmos 954. It was actually a nuclear-powered satellite. It would plunge through the atmosphere and disintegrate, scattering radioactive debris over an area of northern Canada. 1985, the Space Shuttle Discovery launched from Cape Canaveral on the first secret all-military shuttle mission. In 1989, serial killer Ted Bundy executed in Florida. He got the electric chair. 2003, former Pennsylvania Governor Tom Ridge sworn in as the first secretary of the new Department of Homeland Security. 2011, a suicide bomber attacking Moscow's busiest airport killed 37 people. Chechen separatists would claim responsibility for the bombing. And in 2020, 15-year-old Coco Gauff upset defending champ Naomi Osaka in the third round of the Australian Open. So there you go. Let's see. Celebrity birthdays. Ray Stevens, comedian, singer, is 84 today. Talking about singers, singer-songwriter Neil Diamond turns 82. Singer Aaron Neville, also 82 today. Oh, remember comedian Yakov Smirnoff? He's 72 today. Jules Holland, a jazz pianist and band leader, host of Later, is 65. Actress Nastasia Kinski, 62 years old today. Mary Lou Retton, the Olympic gold medal gymnast, she's 55 today. Blues and rock singer Beth Hart turns 51. Actor Ed Helms is 49. Actress Carrie Coon turns 42. Actor Daveed Diggs, he's 41. And actress Misha Barton, 37 today. So those are the celebrity folks that we know of. There's a few celebratory days today. If you want something to celebrate and don't have, you can pick from these. Well, first up, Beer Can Appreciation Day. Yep. Didn't know there was such a thing, did you? Of course, it was on this day back 1935 when beer was first sold in cans. So that's what it is to celebrate, the fact that they put beer in cans. It is also National Peanut Butter Day, so you now know what you can have for lunch. It's National Compliment Day, so say something nice to somebody, compliment them. It's International Day of Education today, hoping that everyone having the right to free education is able to get it. And Global Belly Laugh Day. Yep, just a day set aside to celebrate the gift of laughter and experience the positive effects of laughing and smiling. So, there it is. Talks about it doesn't just stimulate the stomach, which of course is very good for you. It also stimulates the heart and lungs. When they say laughter is the best medicine, they are good. And it also, your body increases the endorphins or the feel-good hormones. So there's lots of reasons to laugh. Get out there and enjoy life a little bit. Well, of course, this morning you may have heard, you may not have heard, the Oscar nominations released. The sci-fi indie hit Everything Everywhere All at Once leads nominations of the 95th Academy Awards with 11 nominations. A year after the streaming service topped Hollywood's honors for the first time, big screen spectacles did dominate the nominations this morning. Nominees for Best Supporting Actress, Angela Bassett, Hong Chow, Kerry Condon, Stephanie Hughes, all up for that. The nominees for Best Supporting Actor are Brian Tyree Henry, Judd Hirsch, Brendan Gleeson, Barry Cogan, and Ki-Hu Kwan. So those are some of the nominations out there. Of course, all the nominations are available online for actor, actress, as well as the supporting international screenplay, all best score. They're all out there. And, of course, no surprise that Spielberg's Fabelmans, Banshees of Inisherin, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, like we talked about the other day, are the films that have probably, or have garnered, I should say, the greatest amount of nominations. One last one here before we let you go. I mentioned the other day about the search for actor Julian Sands, who's missing in the mountains. Well, rescue personnel in California have launched a search now for a second hiker on the same mountain where Sands was missing. San Bernardino Sheriff's Department said the search and rescue teams received a request just this Sunday to search for 75-year-old Jin Chung of Los Angeles, who was last seen 6 a.m. that morning. Now, Sands was reported missing January 13th while he was also hiking on Mount Baldy. Sheriff's Department say the rescuers have unsuccessfully searched over the weekend, so they have found neither of them. So now 2 people missing. Of course, the concern there have been landslides and things going on in that area of California, and there is great concern for their safety. Well, enjoy your day. Beautiful blue skies and sunshine and a quick jump. It's 34 degrees right now. John Staten coming your way here at 9 o'clock. Chris will be with me on Call Flow tomorrow. As it is Wednesday, she'll have her recipe of the week. So something for you to look forward to tomorrow.
WFLO AM 870, Farmville.